All right, so they announced a new tournament, Northshore tournament. Let's go check it out. It's going to be at the Maple Bay holes. I know I went and pulled up the Maple Bay holes, setting up for the video, so I got the Maple Bay holes set up in Golf Clash Notebook. And I know the first 4 holes follow the path that's in Golf Clash Notebook, so I'm gonna make an assumption and say that they're all the same. So I'm just gonna walk through them. Walk through them blind. I haven't watched any video. So the way that I used to do these walkthroughs is I would walk through. So you guys need to let me know, guys and gals need to let me know, which way do you like it better? Do you like me to just go through where I'm just like thinking off the cuff and trying to remember how to play the holes and then go back and look at some numbers and then play a practice round? Or would you rather have more stuff? Because I'm usually like the stuff dialing into the cup. There's a lot of the stuff that you have to do with the clubs that you have in your bag, and that's just how it works. And so, and what numbers are you using? What if you're using a program, which program are you using, and what ball are you using, and all that stuff can change. So, because I use paper numbers, so I don't have to. I have the app and I know how to use it. I actually used it in one tournament. I just organically just using the numbers, so I'm sure that my numbers aren't as accurate over the long haul, so that's why I'm streaky, because I'll get into a period where what I have works. I figured it out for my numbers and it works, and then like some changes I can chase some changes, but some changes get ahead of me or I get ahead of them. So let's see these holes, let's check them out blind. Let's see if I can remember how to play them. It seems to me there's a shot. I've always taken the shot coming out into here where you have a short iron shot into the cup, and this is an awesome shot. And if you've got a low level account and you have a Kingfisher in your bag, you need to bring it with you. Because if you've got access to a Kingfisher, you need to take a really hard look at it, because it is an awesome club for this. It's like one backspin. It's super accurate for lower level stuff. If you got it up even just a little bit, it gets, it's a really accurate club. Great Kingfisher shot. The problem with out here at the end, if we zoom in on it, you can see when you're down in these areas right here how it looks like the rough is like only like this wide, and if you look in a normal spot, it's this wide, and you're like, wow, there's not that much. No, there is this much rough there. It's just going down the hill. And so if you engage the edge out here and even touch that rough, you're going to end up in the sand. It'll roll right through that rough. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody get caught up in the rough, but I may have. But it is the rarity. It's the exception rather than the rule, and you'll end up in the sand. And it's not that you can't recover from down here, but you have a much better shot from right over here in the fairway, so you always want to end up in the fairway. But if you're bringing in your bag, you want to bring something like this. Might be a good bag for a Malibu, something that's really accurate from the sand. Same thing with the rough iron. But the goal is to just get out here, and I don't believe that it takes that much. What it takes is a 3-power ball, and I believe that I've played this hole. I think I've got my rock up to the point where I can now play it with my rock, but you can easily play this with an extra mile and get into this area, and your second bounce is going to be barely over. So when you're making your wind adjustment, you want to take into consideration like where you're at right here, because this is the important bounce to clear that sand to roll out. And there's a little pocket right here, and I think there's another one right here that we really can't see, but one of these pockets is kind of like where I'm aiming to. Like I don't mind being in that pocket all the time, and I'm usually right up on the top of the lip. But find a spot out there and you have a great shot coming in. The other shot that you can do is you can hit over to this side right here, and you can come in at it at this angle so that you can engage this rough, and you can do a rough bump. And this is the type of rough bump and this will be a little bit longer shot obviously than from down here. I've had a lot of success with this shot. If you hit it perfect, it's got your serious opportunities to get in the hole. But especially if you were playing with higher winds, this rough bump becomes a much bigger deal, because you don't have to worry about secondary wind effect when you're down here. And from over here coming up, even though if you took the arc and you were like, hey, if I'm in this range over here, I'm about the same range as over here. This shot coming in is a straight in shot. So if you want the straight in shot, you might be better off coming over here, just depending on which way the wind's blowing. So if the wind was blowing, you know, this direction, this shot's better because it's going with the wind, as opposed to having this crosswind from here, if that makes sense. But this is the type of rough bump that I like, because where you're coming into it, you're coming in at it on this angle, you're in a pretty wide spot. And if you used some side spin, you could engage up here. So it gives you more options for the wind. So if the wind's blowing, if you're getting this type of wind or this type of wind that's blowing parallel with this, if you misstep on your wind adjustment, you're still hitting the rough. But if you can engage up here, you can catch this same effect, or you could move it up just a little bit and put some side spin on it if you had this kind of wind, and you could get the same effect. It's where you get winds that are like this, where it's pushing you off. So if it's pushing you off of this narrow spot, you can move up to the wider spot of the green. If I need to put my pen up here. I need to get rid of that one. I keep grabbing for the wrong pen. So if you're up in this wide spot right here, and you've got this kind of a wind, it's giving you a little bit, right here at the apex, it's giving you a little bit deeper rough to work with. So these are the type of rough bumps that I like, because they give you lots of options, and you can adjust based off the wind that you have. It may not be the optimal thing that you wanted to do, but with this wind, it's really problematic with hitting off of this. You can move it up a little bit, and you just need more side spin to get it over to the cup. You have a great shot from over there. And I think from the second tees, for sure, and probably from the third tees, that's a great shot coming in. But if you can get down here to the front, I think that I personally like this shot better. And I've tried this rough bump out here, and you do have a rough bump, but this to me, anytime you can get into your short iron range, your short iron is worth digging into. Like if you're down towards minimum long iron, you need to see what steps you need to take in order to get into max short iron, because anytime you can get to your short iron, you should be in a pretty accurate club where you can make some money. All right, what's hole number 2? All right, I think, and I don't know, and even from the third tees, I don't know what kind of distances you can get. Obviously, if you're hitting when you're going down into this chute, I mean, if you look at this course, at this hole, the narrowest freaking fairway out there is like right through this area. It's where your main driving area here, because you're really not going to use this upper part. You're never going to get there. You're going to get caught in the sand or get caught in the rough up here. So really, you've got this really narrow fairway down here. And where you have the least amount of control of your ball is at the end of the run. So ideally you want to come in here with something that's got some accuracy, so that if you're off just a little bit, it's not going to kill you, and get down as deep as you can into that hole. But you do not have to get all the way to the end. And it doesn't really, I'm not sure, I can't say that if you brought out a big enough ball and you had a Goliath in your bag, and Goliaths have lots of topspin, that you wouldn't be able to get this done with a Goliath, because the whole goal is to get in here to get this tee rough bump, and you've got a great shot coming in at the cup. You can bring it around a lot, and if you don't have a big enough ball, you're going to find yourself starting off more to the right hand side. I prefer, if I'm in the wrong spot, like sometimes you just have to admit that you didn't put yourself in a shot. Like if you're over in this area trying to use topspin to come over, you could do a second bounce rough bump to try and get up there. You do have some options, but you're from distance here. So for me, I didn't get the ideal where I was trying to hit this, but I didn't make it. Something happened. I will try and start off more to the right and try and clear these obstacles, and then try and bring my ball back around with curl and side spin. And even if I end up where I know that I really have no shot at dropping it, and I just end up over here, I've put myself back in play. I got back on it. I didn't drop a shot on it. But if you're in the right spot, you have a great rough bump there, and it's on the wider part of that rough bump. or that rough. So you have a little bit of maneuverability down there. You can see from the shadow right here how there is a little bit of a hill right there coming up. So like where you enter the rough and seeing how that comes into play. But we have a great rough bump opportunity here if you were down in this spot. But if you were up here at the top, I'm not sure as far as distance goes, depending on what ball you brought, you would once again have that rough bump, but you'd have to bring out, if you think about arc, like where you are on this shot, which you can take with, you'll have to look for the ball that you brought and the clubs that you have, whether or not a sniper has enough topspin to get you up there, or if it takes, because for most of a sniper's life, it's around 2.25. Like once you start getting some cards in it. So whether that 2.25 is enough to get you up there, or whether you have to bring a sniper, because there's a big difference in distance. But I'm pretty sure that we can get up there with a sniper if we bring a 3-power ball. So this distance right here, this measurable distance, like what that changes as far as what club you need to bring. Like, do you have to bring like a big dog or a cataclysm and a big ball in order to reach the rough bump? So the drive is just a delivery system to get you out there to the end. Because if you're playing one-on-one from the pro tees or from the rookie tees and you hit to the top, you're pretty well sunk. I mean, it's like you gave me a shot. All I have to do is get up there. You occasionally see opponents do that. But I'm sure that from the back tees, there's reasons for that fairway to be there. We have a great rough bump on this. And if I remember correctly, there was something like a 10% wind adjustment. And that was if you draw the line and anything on this side of the line is favorable wind and anything on this side of the line is unfavorable wind. We almost always got some kind of favorable wind, even if it was riding the line on this hole. And it was kind of neutral. And there is a rough bump that you can do on this hole. I see people come at this hole. You can do the rough bump. I see a lot of people start off over in this area. I see a lot of people start up close and bring it over. So they're in front of all the traps. I've brought it in from over here before, and I've done a backspin shot where you can start like right at it and go right at it with max backspin and try and just backspin it in. And you don't make that shot very often, but when you make it, it burns into your memory banks because it's pretty spectacular when you backspin a shot in. So you have a lot of options on this hole, depending on what clubs you have. But if you can take this rough bump, or you like rough bumps, this is not a bad one. And once again, you look at the shape of the rough. So where you're hitting, you're in this area right here where you're in the wider part of it, and so you've got a little bit more maneuverability to the right and the left and to the top and the bottom. So depending on which way the wind's blowing, you have a much bigger window where the wind's not going to affect you and get the sand involved. And I can't remember on this sand, if you've played this game for any length of time, you understand how this works. The sand works one of two ways when you're engaging the edge. You pull to it and it doesn't really do anything. Or you get to it and it's distorting your ring. So your ring up here looks like this, it's just a circle, and over here it's like this. And it dips down and it stretches it out once it hits the sand. And once you engage one of those rings where it's distorting the rings, it's a bad deal because it takes a jump when you go over the edge. And it's a weird adjustment. So anytime you can avoid that, and this type of rough bump helps you avoid that because it gets you more into a wider area of the rough. And if you've got a low wind ball, it'll really help you. And a really accurate ball. I'll give you guys and gals 5 guesses on which way I'm going to go with this hole. Just 5. Hole number 4. All right. Playdemic, which is the owners of this game, they own the game. They're like NASCAR. They own all the tracks, right? They own all the courses. They own the name. and they own the name Golf Clash. And so the deal is what they are is they're a ball manufacturer. And this hole is all about ball. This is like one of the City Park holes that we have in the City Park 9-hole Cup. You want to bring out whatever ball it takes, and you can do this with any kind of favorable wind. Any kind of favorable wind and a 3-power ball, depending on the level of extra mile or apocalypse that you have. And this is one of those cases where the rod distance, you want as much topspin as you can on the other side, but the rod distance is more important. So if you have an APOC, even an APOC 4, this shot becomes much more doable. And you're going from the tee box to this landing spot right here to just get up on the green in one. So let's explore that shot. So when you get down into this area, I try and hit, I see a lot of people, and this, if you hit more over here, you're more in line with the flagpole, so you're like going for the hole-in-one. But you're in a narrower part of the rough. I like to use this little area right here because now I'm in this wider area where I can have variables because you're doing a max overpower shot. So if you hit a grate to the left or right, you catch that 2-ring grate to the left. If you're in an area like this, depending on which way the wind's blowing, it can kill you. But when you're in an area like this, that 2-ring grate to the left may put you over here, and it won't. The whole goal of this shot is to land on the fairway over here. If you end up on the green, that's a bonus. Anything in the clear on the other side, you're in the money. Now you can overshoot this where you catch it just right, and you can end up on the back side, but it's more than likely, if you can just get past the rough, you're going to be in a good spot right here to go for, you're putting or making a short chip for eagle. You've got to go for that. So it really just depends on what ball you're bringing. But if you do not have any of the bigger balls, and you won't necessarily need anything more than a 3-power ball unless we get headwind. If you're trying to hit over there against headwind, you're going to have to bring out a bigger ball. You're going to have to bring out a 4-power or a 5-power ball. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know what the numbers are, but if this game is playing correctly, whenever the wind is coming across this type of terrain, going across sand and then going right to water, and you're getting headwind into that, that's a call for, like, the wind is affecting the ball a lot more. And so rod distance will be key to get you out to that area. So using an apocalypse and getting you, especially if you've got one that's at level 5, I think that's where it gets more than an extra mile. That little bit of distance could help you get to that spot. Or you can hit off of this right here and get over to this fairway. And this shot is very difficult because what happens is the way that this terrain is looking down here, it goes like this. Here's the top of this hill, and then it goes down into the sand, and then it comes up, and you've got this big ass fairway. So, and this is humped right here. So this is a hump that goes across like this. So if you're on the front of the hump and you're here, your ball guide's going straight out, and you're just digging right into this fairway. And it's very easy to hit that shot if you hit forward, where you don't have to get too far over the top of that little hill right here and get on the forward side, where you're going to end up just diving right into the sand. Or you'll end up clipping this rough and rough bumping and ending up right out in this area. So what you have to do is you have to pull it back a little bit so that you're trying to hit just a little bit towards the tee box off the apex of that hill. So you have as much flight, because what happens on the other side is when you're on the other side and you hit here, it goes straight up in the air, and you have this kind of effect. So you have a very small window up here at the top where you can get any forward run on this other fairway. It's a weird shot, but it's pretty easy if you understand how this works. So when you're out there, you know that the ball's you're not going to see your ball guide get this great little deal on the other side, because you're going to be affected by this hill and how steep this is. So you're just trying to get enough runs so that you end up in like this area right here, and you have a great rough bump to go into the cup. Obviously this shot is tougher than taking a putt, which is why I would go for the putt if you have the ball inventory to get you over there. And I'm sure that you're finding out, for those of you that have lower developed clubs, that having bigger balls, because there's some of these shots that you can go out with an extra mile 8, extra mile 9 with a Kingmaker or a Titan, and you can easily get it done. But that extra mile 5 or that extra mile 4, that extra mile 6, you can't do that. So the difference is you bring out a power 4 or a power 5 ball, and now all of a sudden you can get the same effect. This is one of those holes. So it doesn't really matter what clubs you have. There are balls out there that will get you over to this spot. But you do have a shot from over here. And in one-on-one, this hole is all wind dependent. If I get on this hole and we've got a forward moving wind, I go for over here. If we have any kind of a favorable wind, I go for this shot. Because if I get caught up in the rough or the sand over here, it's a very short chip. And I carry clubs, the Spitfire and the Nirvana have topspin, and so I can run them out just like my Nirvana, and I can play them very similar. So anything close, I've got super accurate clubs for that. That's why people talk about the Malibu is super accurate. So if you like to play with the Malibu, especially if you've got lower developed stuff and that's all you have is a Malibu, that's not a bad club. It's all about it. Then the only thing is distance. If you're up close, it's not a bad deal. Hole number 5. We got a hole number 5. All right. Now, if I remember correctly, there are several ways to play this hole, and it's super. I know in one-on-one I've played down to this area quite a few times, and if you're playing down into this area, I know it's a distance issue. You need to bring out a big ball, and not maybe so much for the first shot, but for the second shot. But what you're trying to do is clear with your Guardian where you can get, where it makes this transition. If you landed out in this area, right in here where it makes this little rough transition and the fairway kind of widens out. Obviously, if you can get to a point where you can come straight at the cup and clear that rough, and it's usually like right out in that area. If you get far enough out here, you can clear that rough where you can go straight at the cup without having to use a lot of side spin. That's the spot you're looking for. And I believe that the way that it runs out, I think I've been able to take that shot with my Guardian. And I've been bringing my Guardian because it gets me a little more distance. But I'll have to go back and watch some video and see how I played that. I know that there's another shot that you can take from this side where you can, I believe, do a rough bump, or you could start here and go at the cup. So you could either try and backspin it to the cup, or you could do a rough bump. And I think from over here, depending on where you get it and depending on what ball, you may be able to do a rough bump along this rough to get to the cup as well. Although that type of rough bump is not my normal cup of tea unless the wind was blowing like this. If the wind was blowing along that rough, then it wouldn't be too bad. But if the wind was blowing in any other directions where it's pushing me off of that's one of those rough bumps that can eat your lunch. That I think that I would have better shot just going for it from out here. Seems to me that we were making a wind adjustment here, but I can't remember. Yeah, let's see what the deal is. So, like, distance-wise, I think what we were trying to do, and the reason that I played this side over here, and I think I played this side here not too long ago because we were exploring this rough bump along here. And if you fail on that rough bump, I remember seeing a lot of people that week that failed where they didn't get to the spot where they could get to this, and they tried to press the issue. Instead of just going, hey, look, I'm in my red line now. It's not going to work out. I'm going to have to do overpower, and we're already in a very sensitive shot. So instead of going for this, I'm going to lower my chances of picking up the Albie, but I'm going to give myself a better shot of making sure that I get on by bouncing off the island and then coming at it. Have that secondary shot in your bag. But I'm going to look at both of them. I'll play this hole. I may play this hole a couple times. I'll watch some video and see like what the deal was and what I did on it. we do have a shot on that. Now I like this par 3, and we have a rough bump opportunity on this par 3 as well. And this par 3 right here, depending on how people are playing it, this par 3 can be a lot of problems for most people. There's going to be a pretty good percentage of the people in brackets that if they had a problem on a par 3, it was this one. And really, in my mind, like this stuff right here is all spectators, like because nobody ever hits their ball here. There is a rough bump that you can do right here with a sniper with the topspin to get up, and it's got a huge ass backboard, so if you overshoot it, what'll happen is you'll run up and you'll run down the rim. If you get up high enough, it about right in this area right here, it rolls down that rim, and then it flattens out and it'll flush out. And so you could end up, if you're on the wrong trajectory, in this rough. This is the epic fail point when you're using that backboard. Even if you're from here and there's a flat area that you can use right here, and I've shot this shot a lot with a Guardian. I was using it because of the backspin, where I could follow my ball guide down and try and get the trajectory. The deal with the Guardian is that even if you got an upper development, it has ball guide, but it doesn't have like sniper, or it doesn't have over 4 ball guide. And for those types of shots, it really, I mean, like, more ball guide, the better. You can set it up, though. You can find the spot out there, and you can use your Guardian from the spot. And the thing I liked about that shot was that it was pretty consistent. Like, I gave myself plenty of room from this rough, from where I was set up. So even if I duffed the shot, I was still going to end up hitting somewhere in this area, which was going to put my ball in this trajectory with all that backspin, and it was going to end me up even on a missed shot, like right out here. But I see a lot of people that will fail. They'll hit this and they'll roll down, and then they'll end up in the rough down here. If you're going to fail, that's the big fail spot is at the end. But this rough bump, you're either, if you don't get the wind adjustment right, this is one of those rough bumps that, once again, if the wind is blowing like this, that's better for us than when it's blowing like this. But I'm going to take that rough bump no matter which way the wind's blowing, and I'm just going to have to figure out the wind adjustment for variable wind. Because if it's got a headwind here, in my experience with golf class, when we're dealing with headwind, we're dealing with water, we're dealing with sand. That headwind is going to affect that ball a lot more than tailwind. So like tailwind might be a +0, and side wind might be a +10, and if you're in the in-between, it might be a +20 or a +30, and then if it's due headwind, it might be a +40, and you'll chase that wind around depending on where it's at. I'm sure that's how this rough bump's going to go, because it is narrow down there, but this is definitely a rough bump that's worth learning how to do. All right, we have another great shot on this hole. And this hole right here, there's actually, okay, you can on hole number 1 too. It is possible to get on in 1, or at least on that side in 1. And even if you were in the sand or the rough, that's a pretty good shot from over there. But there's a bunch of blue crap around that, and that's out of bounds, and that's in the drink. That's no bueno. Let's go back to that hole. So this hole here, we can also try and get on in 1. This one actually, well, it's not. It's tough to get on in 1, and you have a lot of epic fail opportunities. But once again, the goal is to get right out here to the tip and give yourself a short iron shot into the cup. And this is very makeable. This is a very makeable shot from here. And I'm pretty sure I usually use this island to bounce off. You can use an extra mile. You can use a rock, a QB. And this hole right here hits very similar to that first hole, where when you're out here on the rough, like when you're at, this is an even better example. You can see how wide the rough is right here, and how narrow the rough is right here. And you think to yourself, well, that's because there's not very much rough up there. It's only this wide. It's not this wide. No, it's this wide. but it's going down the hill so far that from our perspective we can't see it. That's how narrow it looks. So once you hit that rough, you're in the sand. So this is another one of those fairways that you do not want to overshoot. And you can see along the edge, you can see from the way that the terrain is, that there's like a little ridges that go like in this area, and there's a divot right here, and there's another little ridgy area. And so it rolls off like this. So if you crest that ridge and you have any speed at all, you're now going in a downhill direction. That's following one of these little rivulets. So once you get caught up in that, everybody likes the funnel. Well, you're going to get the funnel action, and it'll run you right to the edge of the rough. And once you catch the rough, boom, right into the sand. So this is your area that you want to be in right here. There's a pocket right here. You don't have to get all the way to the front in order to make this an awesome shot. There should be no reason why we ever end up in the rough. So pick a spot that's back that gets you. And what you can do on that spot is, if you're not, like if you're just a little over mid club or just a little under mid club, you can adjust your landing spot out here so that you're in the perfect spot, so that your next shot is absolutely at mid club. This is one of those kind of holes that you can really set the shot up, or you can go for it. But you don't have to have really big stuff in order to get out to the right spot. And this par 3 right here, I don't even have recollections of this par 3. I'm sure that the very first time I ever played this, because this is how I approached holes when I first started playing, and it was, I had a lot of success at it. Was that when I went to holes like this, my goal was that can I land on the green? Can I land up here and stick the ball? And if the answer was yes, then that meant I needed to bring out a Guardian. And I put a Guardian in my bag, or I put a Saturn in my bag, because the Saturn, even though it doesn't have quite as much backspin as a Guardian, it's got a lot of backspin. And I would stick that ball right to the green and try and work that shot out so I was close to the cup. Because that's a no fuss, no muss. That is like, every time I go to this hole, I'm in this spot, I'm in this spot, I'm in this spot, and I'm getting it down. But you may have a better shot if you're bouncing it over. But I'm pretty sure that I start off on the green. I really can't even remember this hole. I'm sure I'll remember it when I get on it, because you get a little bit different look at it. Isn't that funny? Found a hole I don't remember. I'll have to go look. Here, hold on. Let me go look real quick. I'll go look. All right, hold on. Hold on. All right, I went back and looked at this. So you can bring a Guardian and backspin it on there, depending on what level Guardian you got. You can get that shot done. I'm not sure how it's going to roll out, because it does roll off a little bit on the backside of the cup. But the shot from up here going across, and I'm going to have to work the deal here, because in that particular tournament, I hit 2 hole-in-ones that week, but I hit both of them. I was setting the shot up at 30%, a 30% wind adjustment, 1 per ring. And every time I hit great to the left, I was putting it in the hole, and every time I hit perfect, I was ending up, here's the flagpole, I was ending up on the right-hand side. And in the final round, I hit everything I wanted, and I hit a great to the left, and it ended up great to the left. That's where I was at on this hole. But I did comment in the video that I watched that a lot of people had problems on this hole that week, so this is the hole that you definitely want to standardize. If you're having any problems, explore going up there and just backspinning it up to the cup. It's better to get a birdie and move on to the next hole. This hole right here, you can definitely get, this is definitely an Albie hole. Alright, so what we're going to do, I see people all the time going for this spot up here. And I think from up in this range, as far as arc, you're about the same distance as you are from here as far as the shot to the cup. I think you're going from, I didn't mean to do that. I think you're going from this area right here, and you're doing the bounce over and running it up. You might be able to, if you're coming from this angle and you get down here at the bottom and you're coming across, You can get up into this. What I want to do is get up into this where I've got enough of this rough where I'm in front of it. This is a great shot for horizon. Horizons are, this is a hole where I would recommend a horizon, depending on what clubs you have, because with a horizon you've got enough topspin that you'll be able, you need a lot of topspin in order to get to the hole, and it gives you a little bit more maneuverability down here because it's got a little bit more distance than a sniper. With a sniper, you'll find yourself more, depending on your drive shot, you'll find yourself more often than not having to hit from this fairway. And what I like when I'm hitting against a area like that is I like it where my red line is right here, so that I can put the ball wherever I want in this in order to achieve what I want on the other side. So I consider it a failure on my part for the drive if my red line's here, because then I don't have full maneuverability. You've got a better shot if you can get up in the front. You don't have to get right up in the front. I'm a big fan of being 2 or 3 rings off of transitional surfaces, but it gives you the ability to get where you want to get. And this drive right here, like a couple holes here, not just in this tournament but in the City Park tournament, is a 100% pure setup shot. So I'll come out here. You can do this with a rock or a QB. And with a rock you can do it, or with a QB you can do it. I think with a QB and a Kingmaker it's like 3 rings off of this transitional surface. You'll have to find out for your club, and your ball guide's going out like this and your opponent's thinking you're damn crazy. But you take the wind out and max curl. No overpower, just max curl. It'll make up this distance and you'll go down the middle of this fairway. You don't have to get all the way to the end in order to get the good shot. But trying to get all the way down, get down here onto this flat area, it's easy to overshoot it, especially if if you've got an upper developed rock and you're using an upper developed rock. You really got to work on that shot because it takes very little adjustment to get you down there to the bottom. And you've got a great shot from right there. You have a great sniper shot and or a horizon where you can start off right in here. And if you've got a horizon, the horizon opens up the rough bump. With a sniper, unless you run out a 4-power ball, your best bet's probably going to be that you're going to bounce off of this fairway and try and run it up, and that's not a bad shot. There is a great rough bump here if you've got enough topspin. So depending on where you're at, it might be you might have to bring out a little bit bigger ball so you could get your sniper in there, but if you've got a horizon, you could use it. The upper shot, and I've only taken the upper shot a few times because this shot down here is pretty easy to get to, and it does give you a great window at it. But I do believe that you're hitting from over in this area, hitting over. I think if you brought a big enough club, it would open up a rough bump from this side. Maybe. But I think I see most of the people that are hitting up into that area getting here. Now, if you could get over to this area, that might be a different story. But I think the farthest that you can get is out into here, so you're already bridging this one. And then trying to bridge that one at the very end of the rank could be tricky. But I don't think you can get over here, if I remember correctly. All right, that was Maple Bay. That was the 9 holes for Maple Bay. So what was that tournament? It was the Northshore tournament. Northshore, yep. All right, thanks for watching. Have a great week. Hopefully you'll do well in the 9-hole cup.